Hello, this is Annie. I'm back for another part of the downtown renovation series with another speed build. And strap in because it's going to be a long one. I took on the project of renovating the House of Fallen Trees because I'm going to want to play in this house, of course. And to be completely truthful with you, I've been very intimidated by this house. I don't know if you have realized it yet or not, but there's one house that I have yet to renovate in Pleasant View. And that is, the big sort of dollhouse looking one. That's also been intimidating to me. But the House of Fallen Trees is like that times 10, I feel like. So yeah, I've been really procrastinating, trying to put it off, but it was time. And hey, what better time to renovate it than around Halloween? So it made sense. One thing that I knew about this house that I wanted to change right off the bat was the cellar. First things first, it was extremely deep, and trying to play in that with my camera, and I suppose the Max's cameras as well, I knew it was going to be a struggle, so I definitely wanted to make it taller. And for some reason, I also decided to torture myself by making this a 2-level basement. So you're gonna see some really funky looking stuff here coming up. But I just gotta say, trust the process. It's gonna look really, really strange until all of a sudden it makes sense. So, of course, I started by fiddling around with the first level and lowering the entire house to 4 clicks high. That was step 1, and that went fairly pain-free, actually. So the next part was that I had to remove the foundation, because when you make 2-level basements, you should use walls and not foundations. So I went in and redid everything, outlining it, and I did get help from Numenor's unleveled walls, because they don't immediately go up to the standard height. They actually keep the same height that the surrounding walls have. It's not perfect. You can see them poking up every now and then, but for the most part, it worked out like that. So it made things a lot easier. And yeah, removing the foundation in bits and pieces was the easiest way to go about it, rather than trying to remove it all at once, because I don't have a perfect memory of what this house looks like, so I still needed to have parts of the house left so I could keep the original layout. I put in a sort of placeholder tree there because I knew that I was gonna want to have a tree in that place. It's one of the most distinguishing features of the House of Fallen Trees, I think, that there's like a tree at the entrance that you walk around to enter the house. So I wanted to keep it. But it's going to be another tree at the end. And here is the next step of the process. I needed to shift everything up 1 level. And doing that, I removed all the floors so that I could sort of trace it like you would trace a painting, by putting walls above and then moving down to the next layer and doing the same thing until I got to the bottom. What complicated things was the big amount of balconies and patios on this house. Mainly because I think a lot of them were like hanging in mid-air, so they didn't have any supports to hold them up, and that made it a bit of a struggle to actually put them down properly. So yeah, here you can see I went in with a fence that has columns attached, and that actually allowed me to put in the proper tiles where they were supposed to go, and then I could remove the fence again. And I removed the staircase for now. It was easier to work with the different levels without that in the middle of it. But it's gonna return later in the exact same space. I actually tried my best to maintain the silhouette of the house as much as I could, even though I rebuilt a lot of it in the end, because I liked the integrity of this house, it's so different and it's so distinguishable. Like when you see this house at once, if you're familiar with the houses in downtown, you know exactly what house it is at once. So I wanted to keep that feeling. Yeah, and now we got down to the final layer, and now I could finally remove the all of the foundations. So I'm left only with walls at the end. And then it was time to make the magic happen with the actual constrained floor elevation sheet. And it took me a few tries to get the height right. For some reason, I got it wrong a few times. So the first time it seemed like the walls were too high. So instead I tried to bring it down 4 clicks. But yeah, then I realized after doing all of this that, I've actually brought it down too much. Now the ground is poking down. So I redid it again, and turns out 3rd time's the charm. This time it turned out perfect in the end. So the foundation is going to be 8 clicks high around the house, and then at the entrance there's going to be sort of a middle part that's just 4 clicks high, where the staircase is going to go. And it's going to have the same layout as the house did originally have for the staircase, only it's going to sit on the foundation instead of like an elevated piece of land. So it's going to look better, I think. And this is going to be the basement. And yeah, that can happen when you use the constrained floor elevation sheet. Weird poking up walls here and there. And I don't know if you can see it. It is not that visible in the video, I think, even though it is in game. But sometimes when you use the constrained floor elevation sheet, the walls have this little triangular spots poking up mid-air above them. So I went in and removed the walls and added them back again, and that took care of those little specks, or what I should call them. I still wanted to have this little hidden passage for the staircase, and this house was actually built before apartment life, way before actually. So it didn't have the sort of hidden entrance behind the bookcase, but I like to imagine that if they had that hidden entrance behind the bookcase, they would have used it. So I definitely wanted to use it. So that's going to be added in later. But first of all, I added in these little, not sure what you call them, but fences with pieces on the roof. Yeah. The fences with the columns included. Yeah, those you have there. And it made the house look very New Orleans, and I think that is a big part of the inspiration for this house. I actually just watched a really, really great video by Anna Chibi about the Tricot family, and learned a lot of really, really interesting lore about this family that I didn't know already. I highly recommend that you go watch that video if you're interested in it, because yeah, it's really cool, and it goes into depth about everything surrounding the family and the inspirations for example, the inspirations for the names, and apparently I think it was the Tricot name is actually a location in New Orleans, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so that's definitely an inspiration for this house, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, we made it to the entrance, and this is something that I struggled with for a long time. I knew that I wanted the actual part where the door was gonna go to be 2 tiles, so I switched around the looks of it a little bit and added a little bit more space in front of the porch as well, which I thought was needed, because I really wanted to use this really, really beautiful door that I only just downloaded. It's a conversion from The Sims 3. And then I needed 2 tiles, of course. And then the first thing I thought I was gonna do was add in this sort of roof piece above the entrance, and yeah, I started to like put in these sort of fences, and no, that didn't look good. And then I was going for a roof, And yeah, this was a whole process. And it didn't go my way in the least, because often when you sort of drag roof pieces inside of walls, they will actually cut away when you are inside of the house, but the roofs will show up outside. Unfortunately, when you use diagonal walls, I've noticed that that tends to not work properly, and yeah, I had to fiddle around with that quite a lot. It's gonna change, even though I fixed it for now, it's not gonna stay. So I'm gonna go back to that later. But first I'm putting back the stairs, this exact way, same way that they were previously. And this just looks so iconic to me. The way that this entrance looks with the tree and everything is just so eye-catching, if you know what I mean. And I decided to use stone as the base. It took me a few tries to find one that actually looked good, because for some reason the wall pieces that I had used were like showing the top part of the wallpapers on some spaces and the bottom part in other spaces. So I couldn't use all kinds of them, but yeah, I found a few ones with grey rock, and that looked really good. And I tried out a bunch of things for the upper part of the house as well. But yeah, here I changed out also what kind of rocks I used. I found a better one. But in the end, I decided to go for this panel that's really like worn and detailed, and I just love the looks of it. I have it in this pale white and grey color, but I also have it in like a nice teal color, and I really love it. It's beautiful. And I don't get to use it often, so this was the perfect opportunity. And we're getting to the roof. And yeah, this was actually going quicker than I thought it would, or than I feared it would take. But it's definitely a quirky one. So I decided to put a tower at the front. I thought that that would make like a nice centerpiece above the entrance. And then, yeah, just long gabled roofs. And then it was like a hole in between them. So I put in a normal just roof piece to cover that up as well. It's a really interesting way to make roofs with this little sticking out. I don't remember what the name is right now, but the roof pieces that's on top, like a floor above. It's interesting the way that sits. I don't think I would have thought to build it like that if I would have built this on my own and not just renovated it. It's interesting. And then we're moving to the windows. At first I thought I was gonna go with this sort of nice warm brown tone for the roofs and for the windows and doors, I mean. Because I thought that that would like tie things together nicely with the inside. But yeah, I'm gonna change that later. And here you can see I struggled with the roof again. It still didn't want to go my way. So yeah, here I lost my patience. I was like, nope, new plan. So I just left those little tiny squares for small roof pieces that I'm gonna put in. I tried this out first, but yeah, that didn't work either. So just normal square ones, which unfortunately turned out not to be perfect either, because part of them are poking into the room still, which annoys me. But yeah, it was the best I could do with it. And here I decided to change it out to a more dull gray color, and yeah, I think it turned out a lot better. It matched the feel of the house. I think that this should be a pretty old and worn down house, where, you know, repainting it would be a huge project, and probably people haven't been able to repaint it for a long while. So that was what I thought. And here I'm laying out also the basement. I made some huge rooms, and then yeah, a mystery room as well. I actually decided not to show you too much of the cellar. You're gonna see a little bit at the end, but yeah, not not that much, because that's going to be part of the sort of Chico mystery that I have as I start playing with Downtown, and I don't want to spoil it for you. So I actually haven't decided exactly what's gonna go down there, but I have some ideas, and you're just gonna have to wait and see what it becomes. There's a lot of interesting lore to build from, after all. The Chico family isn't one that I have been very aware of in the past. I actually only just recently found out about them, and I think that I'm one of the people who has experienced finding out about them and becoming a bit obsessed with them. That seems to be what tends to happen as soon as people learn about the Chico family. It is actually a really, really fascinating, it seems, lore, really. People know a lot about, the disappearance of Bella Goth, but I think that the Chico family is also a very, very interesting one with a lot of questions, and of course, a lot of it is left up to the player to theorize about and decide, but that actually makes it even better, I think. So I look forward to exploring it more when I play. Yeah, and I, as I mentioned earlier, I kept the staircase layout. I don't think I've ever made a staircase like this before, but it's very striking. It's very different looking. Not one that I would think of building myself either. That's part of what's fun with renovating the Maxis builds, I think. They had a lot of quirky ideas, and sort of reimagining them with custom content and modernizing them a bit and taking inspiration from them can really bring out some interesting things that you would have never thought about if you just built on your own. And here I'm putting in the bookcase passage, and I wanted to also try to blend it in with the normal bookcases so it didn't stick out and looked random. It has that piece of wood above it, which is a bit annoying to me. I wish that the normal bookcases would have that as well, or that it wouldn't have it at all, I suppose. Either or would work so that they could blend in better, because now it's like sticking out like, hey, I'm different. But yeah, I tried to make it pretty close to the wooden paneled walls around it, so it didn't show up too much. Then I am picking one of the new wood floors. I have only just downloaded as well. I went on a sort of CC hunting spree before I started building this, because I knew that I was going to want to have a certain look for this house. And I'm one of those people who tend to save bookmarks from Tumblr in my internet, like my Chrome in my cell phone as like bookmarks. And it's actually reached a point when it doesn't show a number of tabs I have open anymore. It just shows a smiley face. So I thought it was about time to download some things anyway. I think that means that I have like over 100 tabs open. It probably isn't very good for my battery time on my mobile. I'm realizing as I say this. But anyway, I'm sure that there's a lot of us who do that. It's very inconvenient and convenient at the same time. I really wish that there were some sort of app, I suppose, where you could save down Tumblr pages more easily. Because, I know that some people are like reblogging to save for later for themselves, but that's just not my thing. Anyway, tangent about Tumblr. I'm putting in some other kinds of wooden floors in the different rooms, because having the same kind of wooden floor just became too much, and I was considering putting in carpet in the bedrooms instead, but somehow it didn't feel right in this house to have carpet. Don't know what or why made me think like that, but decided against it. Right, and I also forgot to mention, but some of the windows that I'm using are also conversions from The Sims 3 that I only just downloaded, and Oh my god, they are gorgeous. I remember finding and loving these back when I played The Sims 3, and yeah, they definitely are my favorite windows from The Sims 3, and I'm so happy that I have them now also in The Sims 2. I love them so much. The fact that you can have like a full-length square window and then that it connects up to a rounded window on top, it's just chef's kiss. And you don't have that annoyance of not being able to use the tile in between the levels as you have with actual 2-tile windows. So yeah, really, really love it. I'm adding in more brown or wooden panel walls in the different levels. I like the way that these different floors tie together with that same wallpaper like that. And then I'm switching out for the actual tree that I wanted to use. And yeah, in order for it not to be cast in shadow like it was from the start, I actually put it on the same level as the, well, up on the foundation, that is. And at first I used this sort of wooden tile, but then I changed it out to a sort of stone or moss-covered stone thing that makes it look like it could be growing out of there, possibly. So I thought that made it look a lot better. And there's actually also this little strange garage at the end of the lot here that I wanted to keep as well. It's a good thing to have for the car, after all, if they do have one, or they probably will. They could have a lot of cars actually with that long driveway as well. I think 4 in total they could have. Yeah, so that's gonna be a thing. And yeah, changed out the fence as well to something that looked very similar, but a little bit more high quality, I suppose. And it has a really nice gate with it as well. And then, yeah, changing out also the path here into a stone one instead, because that sort of wooden one looked a bit odd to me. And I'm changing out some of the trees here for other kinds of trees. Since I don't have any graves on this lot anymore, I removed the graveyard. I recolored the terrain into the grass texture that I use, but I also made sure to add in a lot of dirt because it doesn't look right with like a pristine grassy lawn for this house. So there's a lot of these dirt patches. And I also added in these hedges. I wanted it to look a bit like wild and poorly maintained, if one could say so, with like a dark, wild-looking textures for the trees and the bushes. I think that these trees that I put in the back are the most colorful ones that I used, actually. Otherwise, I had this really like moody bushes. I love them to death. They are gorgeous, but they do bring in a certain mood. That's for sure. I needed to put in a pool tile to make the water actually look like water and not a black void. So I hid it behind or well under a pair of rocks like I normally do. And decided to put in a patch of ivy on this part of the wall to make it look a little bit more interesting and also again a little bit more wild. That's just the unkept look that I wanted to go for. And of course in the pond I thought that it looked a little bit weird to just have the water with nothing beneath it, especially with those well, those two wooden beams going down like that. I wanted something to sort of cover it so it didn't look so empty. But oh my god, this pond is deep. Like, look at the length of those poles poking down. I mean, it's so deep. It made it really difficult to put in the plants because I had to be like straight above it. And then I had the trees in the way. It was the whole thing. So yeah, I left it looking pretty messy like that. But I just like to imagine that that was how it's been left after the family catastrophe happened. yeah. And then we're actually moving into the house and furnishing things. So I started with a kitchen, and the layout of this was not the easiest. I struggled a lot with this actually, because it is deceptively big. You wouldn't think so with like it's just 4 tiles wide, but it's very, very deep. So yeah. I put in a sort of shelving unit around the fridge that I haven't used before, but I thought looked really, really nice. And I considered using an old stove, but I felt like if it was something that they had modernized in this house, it would have been the kitchen. I think that makes sense. And yeah, I like the tiling in this room as well. Sort of the dark wooden color and the creme white ties together pretty nicely with the rest of the coloring. I'm one of those people who's not afraid to use different wooden tones in different parts of the house. I'm sure you've noticed by now. I actually think it can look nice like that. Just the way that I also think that symmetry isn't always the best way to go. Asymmetrical things can be more beautiful sometimes. Yeah, here you can see me struggle with the size of the room, because I could not figure out what to put in that corner of the kitchen at first. And I started to think about like, a kitchen island is one of the things that rich people have, right? But in the end, it didn't look good at all. And I ended up putting in sort of like an open table-looking counter besides the windows, and that actually let in a lot of light like that. And yeah, I think that made sense, weirdly enough. And then I could put in like a sink and a washing machine, and a dishwasher and trash compactor at the end there. And the wall became very empty, and I didn't want to put in more cabinets, so I decided to go with shelves instead, that I could stack a bunch of clutter onto. And I put in also a microwave and a coffee machine, because I think some modern looking things in here is nice to sort of marry the old with the new, because it's not only gonna be the Tricot family living here, it's gonna be also Raynell Ninja, I think her name is, the woman who moved in here after the Tricots had passed away, and then had died from fright, I think. I think the story is that the Tricot cousins scared her to death. That's what's implied, at least, I think, because she has huge eyes, as if she's afraid. That's something I learned from watching another video on the Tricot family. There's plenty of them, actually, on YouTube that you can find. And it's also going to be inhabited by Mr. Big. So I'm not going to go through the whole story, of course, but the idea that I have is that the youngest Tricot cousins, and that is Fricorith and Vaudrin, have survived the family tragedy, the fire that killed the rest of the family. But of course they are teens right now. I think they might have been toddlers or children back when it happened. I haven't really decided exactly yet. But of course they couldn't live on their own. So my idea is that Mr. Big is their godfather. So he took up the tenants of this house, and then when either of the cousins come of age, I haven't decided who should inherit yet, the house will switch ownership to that living Tricot family member. And yeah, so that's what I mean with like the old marrying the new in this house, that I think there's a lot of like old Trico legacy in this house that has been untouched, but there's also some touches of new modern things that Raynell and Remington, Mr. Big, have brought into the house as well. And of course, living with two teenagers, they would have not want to have some modern things as well, I think. But I think there's also some sentimentality that this is where the family lived, and sort of removing too much of the old would also remove part of their lives, making them feel even more dead. So I think that part of why they have kept things looking as it was and not changed that much is probably because of because they miss their family members. They didn't die a natural death after all. It was very traumatic for everyone, I think. Yeah, I ended up only having 2 bathrooms in this house. And I think that from the start there were 3, but the bathrooms were in a really odd place on the first floor, and they were right next to each other on both sides of the staircase, and neither of them had windows. So that's why I decided to make it one long bathroom on the first floor instead of 2. So I don't know how that will impact things. It might end up being a pain to not have a 3rd bathroom, but yeah, I'm gonna have to see. It's not that big of a family yet anyway, because they're just 4 people, so we're gonna have to see how it feels after a while. Maybe I can squeeze a bathroom in somewhere. Can't think of a good place right now, but I might be able to think of one as I play. Right, and this is the master bedroom. The bedroom for Remington and Raynell. And put in a really beautiful wooden frame bed and some bedding that I just got as well. And there's a fireplace in this bedroom, which is really, really cozy. And I also adore these sort of heavy wooden armories that I have. They're so beautiful. I think that in reality it would be a struggle to fit everything into them if they have a lot of clothes, but yeah, it looks nice. And yeah, putting in some nice and old looking paintings as well, with some sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle references to horror things like skulls and things like that, which I think suits this house perfectly. And I tried also to keep in mind that the Sims should be able to light the fireplaces and not risk everything catching on fire. I remember like back when I had one of the cities that I built before I even started YouTube, like I think it was like a year or 2 before. I had built a city, and I had this rich guy who was like a superstar, movie star, having just moved into his gorgeous apartment, and I had renovated everything and built it like looking gorgeous to his standards. And I was just about to take a screenshot of him lounging in his lounge chair in front of the fireplace. And I went into camera mode, was just about to take the photo, and boom, instantly, the entire carpet below his lounge chair catches on fire. So the picture was like him in a sea of fire. So that was like, yeah, a wake-up call, not to use carpets too close to fireplaces. So yeah, I hope I put the carpet far away enough on the ground floor here, because I know, yeah, if anything catches on fire, it's gonna be the carpet. Yeah. I actually also remembered just barely to put in ceilings as well, because I didn't want to have that sort of normal sheep-looking white texture that I normally use. I wanted it to be more refined, what to call it. So inside of the house I have a dark wooden texture, and outside I have that same wooden texture that I have on the patio as well. And also in the basement, the first level at least of the basement has a sort of cement poured floor as a ceiling. But yeah, there was no chance of getting down to the second basement ceiling to recolor it. No way. So it's just gonna have to be the way that it is. Here you can see me trying to keep a good distance to the fireplace as I put down the carpet, and I am actually not sure if it is far enough away or not. Let's hope it is, because I'm pretty sure I actually also have a mod that makes Sims automatically, like autonomously light fireplaces when it's cold. Yeah, it's a dangerous mod that I decided to put in somewhere down the line. Yeah. I normally don't like to live dangerously with my Sims, but for some reason that felt really nice to have that. Yeah, I might regret having put that in at some point. Yeah, and I don't often get to use these really expensive looking curtains, but I have this gorgeous, not pink, not purple, like in between purple, pink and red, I suppose, color. I don't know if you should call it like a dark pink or something, not sure. But yeah, I really love that color. And it tied together well with the color of the sofa as well. And I decided to put in some decoration for the entrance as well. That's something that I don't always do, but I've started to really love having something like that recently. Well, even in my Pleasant View, actually, there's quite a few houses with this. I actually prefer having it at this point. I haven't always. It's actually a pretty new thing for me. If you take into account all of the years that I've played The Sims, that is. But it makes sense to have like coats and shoes and things like that at the entrance. Yeah, I like it. There's also a door at the back of the patio as well, so I wanted to put in a rug there as well. Just so that you can wipe your dirty shoes entering the house. I thought that made sense, especially if you've been like in the back garden or something. And I decided to remove one of the bookcases and put in a sort of decorative table instead. I just felt like it was too many bookcases in the end. And that painting that I just tried to put in, I think I tried to put that in like 5 times in different parts of the house for some reason. My eyes were really drawn to it. I do think that I ended up putting it in like on the top floor in the end. But yeah, it's gonna reappear. I tried out putting in a long carpet in here, but that didn't look good at all, so I left that out. And here I am considering putting in also a wardrobe at the entrance. I like having that because I like having like something visually logical where they store away their clothes and linens and things. So that was put there. And that made it impossible to also have a window there, but it ended up looking just fine without those windows at all. So I removed it both in the large living room, or what to call it, entrance hall, and also removing it in the dining room. And some paintings leading up the staircase, and I thought that they should also have some music in the theme of modernizing things. So put in this LP record player and some decorative LPs as well. I thought that made sense. I can really imagine the teenagers sitting on the floor here, cross-legged and listening to music together. Maybe they're guardians would join in as well. And yeah, this was actually the only place in the house where I put in a poster on the wall randomly, but I thought it made sense with the records and things. Right, and we're moving up to the first floor here, and I wanted this nook to be sort of like an office space for a computer. And at first I thought I would sort of frame it with bookcases like this. I had this idea that I wanted it to be like dark wooden bookcases that curved into a desk, but it turned out that I didn't have any nice dark wooden textures for these, and then it turned out that the desks that I had weren't big enough to connect with the bookcases either, so I ended up scrapping that idea and putting in a 3-tile desk instead. And that also made sense, I think. It looks like it belongs there. And at first I thought I would put in some sort of a blackboard here, but then I changed my mind because it bothered me that it wasn't logical how you would write on it. So instead I put in this sort of map painting instead. Or poster, I suppose. And the Persian rug. So we have this... well, first of all, I decided to go in and actually check everyone's favorite hobby. And just to learn a little bit more about them, because I have never played with any of them before, and I'm gonna have to like build from my preconceived notions of them, and that's not gonna be perfect. So I went in and checked. Actually, turns out that both Raynell and Vaudwin have the science hobby. Fricorith has the films and literature, and Remington has sports. I think that out of the 4 of them, Remington is gonna be the one who doesn't have the easiest way of it. I really imagine him like a businessman, and trying to figure out a way for him to do sports is really a struggle for me. Possibly that he would watch sports on the TV on his free time, whenever he has free time, but I think he would be a workaholic as well. I think maybe I'm gonna put in that golf put thing. That's the reward for the business career. That might be good for him. Just gotta figure out where to put it now, after the fact. I think it would look odd in the garden, come to think of it. I'm gonna have to keep thinking. Yeah, so I've started to furnish the cousins' bedrooms, and Fricorith was the first one. And I really tried to keep his hobby in mind while still keeping it like a teenager's room. And I found this really, really cute group of pillows that I thought was just too adorable not to put in there. And he actually also has a fireplace in his room, so I decided to put in a bookcase and a nook where he can sit and read in front of the fireplace. I just thought that was perfect for him. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a room like this either, to be honest. Just like sitting in front of the fire with that view outside as well. Yeah, here you see me trying to put that painting in again, but it's gonna disappear. So it turned out really nice, actually. And I think that he's gonna like reading, and I'm eventually also gonna put in a TV as well that he can watch movies on. Not sure how much else I'm gonna do. I guess that's just gonna come naturally when I start playing, because what often happens with my film and literature sims is that they start writing novels. But I don't want them to feel too much the same either, so I think I'm gonna try to hold myself back and try to get to know him before I decide. And now I moved on to Vaudwin's room, and yeah, her hobby was science, so I'm gonna put in a microscope for her and a telescope out on her balcony as well. And yeah, I ended up not finding good expensive looking wooden beds for them. For some reason, that's like something that I surprisingly don't have in my downloads folder. So that's something that I might have to fix eventually. But I decided to put in this sort of makeshift cubby bed with the curtains in front. And I think that made a huge difference of how this room felt. I really like how it turned out like that. And then, of course, she's going to have her desk. Something that I normally put in for my children and my teenagers in their rooms is empty desks where they're going to put down their homework to study. In Frikorith's room, there's no room for one, so he didn't get the desk. And in Vordwin's room, I put a microscope on it. So I think the way that Simler's mod works for homework is that if there's no empty desk space, then they're gonna pick the dining table instead. So these two are probably gonna do their homework down at the dining table. So yeah, some clutter in here, and I found some nice backpacks for them as well. That also adds in a little bit of feeling of teenagers and kids, I suppose, with backpacks. And speaking of teenagers and children, I am starting to think about like how I'm gonna be playing with downtown, because now I have built and renovated quite a few houses, and I think that this is gonna be the last one. So after this video, I am going to move Sims in and start playing with them. I don't think that I'm gonna have to build more, but if I do, I'm probably gonna figure that out as I go. And something that I have come to realize is that there is a ton of teenagers in downtown. And I really don't want to miss out on playing them in a school, because I think that playing the schools, like active schools, brings so much life to the neighborhood, and with this many teens, it can actually create some really interesting relationships, I think. So that's gonna be my first priority when I have played the first round with just getting to know the Sims, is building a high school, picking out teachers, and then starting to play with the high school. That's gonna be my first interactive work building that I'm gonna use, for sure. So that's my my thought process on this town. And I really look forward to seeing how the teenagers act with each other. That's part of what's the most fun, I think, when you start up a hood, that it's gonna be a surprise how Sims react to one another. That's why it's also often the most fun to have a lot of singles when you start out, because you don't know what kind of pairings will turn up, what Sims will like each other and so on. So I really look forward to that as well. But I think especially in this hood, I look forward to the teenagers. And part of that is, of course, that there's a lot of lore surrounding them. Something that's going to be interesting, though, speaking of pairings, is that like the majority of the teenagers are related to one another. So they're not going to be able to be in pairs. So that's going to be interesting as well. It's going to create some different relationship dynamics, I think. And my idea is that they don't know that they are related either. I think that they don't know who their fathers are, the other teenagers, that is, of John Smith. They don't know that it was him. Yeah, here you can see, finally to the right, there, that's where I put the painting. Took me long enough. So yeah, I think that is gonna be part of the running plotline that I have for this neighborhood, that They are related, but they don't know that yet. So there's a lot of hidden secrets that's going to be revealed down the line, I think, in some ways. It's going to be a lot of fun to play out. Right, so we've come to the part of the house that was the most difficult for me because it was such an odd shape and I had no idea what to put in here because I thought that I had like checked off the most important kinds of rooms in the house already, like what should I put up here? And it turned out to be possibly, maybe not my favorite, but one of my favorite parts of the house at the end, the way that it turned out. And yeah, I'm really, really happy how it became like that. I don't often use the mahjong table, but I thought that it made sense here actually. So, and I really, really love those hanging plants as well in those hanging pots. They're so gorgeous. Right, and because both Vaudwin and Raynell have the science hobby, I actually also put in one telescope each for both of them, so that they can stargaze, even if one of them is occupied already. And then I'm putting in lights, and as I always say, it makes the house come alive, I feel like. But it really is true. That's the way that I feel every time I start putting in lights in my builds. Just makes it so much more put together and cozy, I suppose. And there's a lot of lit candles and old looking lights. I normally go for spotlights in my houses, but I didn't put in a single spotlight in this house, which is really interesting. But I thought that the wall sconces made a lot more sense in this house. Whether that's lanterns or these kinds of outdoors ones. I did try to put in a 2-level chandelier in here as well, because I could have technically, but I felt like the lighting on the second floor looked too strange, so I opted out of it. This room is gonna remain empty for now. I only put in a light placeholder for it, and the idea for that room is that Remington and Raynell is probably gonna have a kid down the line, a kid of their own. And then that child needs to have a room to be in, of course. And yeah, I also put in these amazing The Sims 1 conversions for the lights in the teenagers' rooms. I really love those. Those are amazing. Some street lights as well. This is gonna be like the fancy and rich part of town, so I put in other kinds of streetlights than I have in other parts of the town. And decided to go with red spotlights, or well, red, whatever those lights are, around the, is it the Weeping Lady or something? I don't remember what that statue is called, but yeah. I think I might have seen the red lights on her somewhere else. I don't remember if it was in Jodeli Jodeli's version of Kryptonite Club, or if it's there from the start maybe. But anyway, I thought that it brought a certain feeling to it, so decided to go with it. And here I'm starting to put in sort of the layout of the basements and some hidden passages as well. So this is sort of the sneak peek you're getting, but I'm not gonna furnish it in any way that you can see what it actually looks like. And as I start to play, I'm going to try very hard not to show you the basements at all, because my idea is that Remington knows about this, but no one else. So it's something that he is keeping secret for now about this. But I think that he only knows about the first room behind the hidden bookcase. He doesn't know that there's more to this. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that secret for later. So there's, I made use of these amazing nooks and niches pieces that really made it feel like a cellar. I think I got inspiration for this from watching someone else on YouTube. I think it is Darkest Dawn who rebuilt this house as well, and she used this for the basement. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Darkest Dawn. Really amazing version of this house as well. I highly recommend watching. Yeah, that's the layout, and a huge mysterious 2-level room as well with no flooring, so it's just gonna be dirt and secrets inside. And here is the finished house at long last. It just took me an hour to show you this. But anyway, I am actually really, really relieved that I have now built this house. And I'm also happy with how it turned out. As I said, I have been putting this off for a long time, and I have been very scared of this house. But as often is when I do these renovations, the thought of doing it is often the worst part of it. Actually sitting down to build it actually isn't that much hard work as I imagine that it's supposed to be. So this is the layout of the house, and this is where I'm gonna leave you to the after pictures. I hope you enjoy this. Thank you so much for watching, and happy Halloween!